Hey everybody, welcome to a special night of nothing but NFL draft talk. I'm really excited, and
Building a website is not
I'm
like painting
gonna
a masterpiece, except it's
start off the NFL
actually
draft
painting a
talk the right
masterpiece.
way. I'm gonna deep six the.
See, when you paint something, you
Well,
can
actually, you know
actually
what?
see
That wasn't. You know what that
details.
was?
So when you draw a little house,
That was a commercial on
yeah,
my video. How about that? Woo! Which we will now mute. Stuff happens, doesn't it? Stuff happens, and I'm going to get right to the heart of it by calling my special guest of the NFL Draft Bible, Justin, the Draft Guru, and in fact, I'm going to call him right now without further ado because he was gracious enough to agree to come on the show. So this is a different NFL draft because normally I would be there and Rick Saratella would be there, but we both have personal issues we've been working on, which cause us to be at our respective homes with my mom and his wife. His wife has a beautiful baby, so hey, he's got daddy duty. Daddy, well, work duty too, right? But he's got a team, so as part of that team, Justin?
Hello?
Is this Justin?
Yeah, this is.
Hey, this is Zennie Abraham of Zennie62 Media, friend of Rick Saratella, and NFLDraftBible.com, of which you're a part. How are you?
Good, man. How are you doing?
I'm excited. I'm telling my viewers that this is the first draft that I haven't attended in 14 years, and for personal reasons, and of course, Rick, as you know, has personal daddy duty for the first time.
Of course.
That's
Of
right.
course.
A lofty assignment being a father. I can think of few loftier assignments. If I can't think of any other. Fatherhood.
Yeah, it's a little tougher than talking draft. I think dad duty is a little tougher.
Oh yeah, dad duty is definitely dad duty is definitely tougher. Somewhere in there's an alliteration.
Yeah, there's something.
Now G Taylor on here, I don't know his real name, but he says Justin, and I like question mark. I call him Justin the Draft Guru, but Justin, you want to give me your full name?
Justin Gamble.
Gamble. But see, for the purpose,
Gamble.
Gamble.
No B, just two M's.
Gamble. That's
Gamble.
what I thought. Right.
Gamme. Yeah.
Right.
It's tough.
And I saw, obviously, but I love your Draft Guru moniker, and I was just gonna go with that. I thought,
Yeah, that works too.
that's perfect. That's better than Jimmy the Greek. So, hey, so I appreciate your being here, and I want to cut right to the chase. What do you think is going to happen? What's your prediction for the draft going into Dallas? What do you think is going to happen?
Geez, man, which part? Because I think the top 5 is like a whole draft in and of itself, and then you have the other 27 picks. But I think there's so much speculation about just what's going to happen in the top 5 that, I mean, that's the one thing that's keeping everybody busy. It's like the mystery surrounding which quarterbacks are going to go where and what is the wild card John Dorsey really going to do. I mean, personally, I feel like it's Darnold. I feel like it's a lot of smoke. Certainly, there's so many rumors and smoke screens and things going on, but I think it might be a little simpler than we think. I think Darnold's their guy. I think he always has been. And then at number 2, I hate to say the Giants will take Saquon Barkley because I don't feel like that's value. That's good enough value for them to do that. But I kind of feel like Barkley will be gone at 2. And then the Jets, they feel like that team that would take Allen ordinarily, but they've seen that experiment go wrong, and I think Mayfield's going to be the guy at 3.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Why don't the Jets take Lamar Jackson just to keep him away from the Patriots?
Because I'm not sure teams are. I don't know if people are convinced Jackson's going to the Patriots. I mean, Belichick is so sneaky. Mm-hmm. It's like you can't tell if they're really interested or that's just a bunch of BS that he's trying to pull to see if teams are going to jump in front of him or how that's going to play out.
I think I know what that is, and I was based in part on a interview I had with John McClain of the Houston Chronicle when I was at the NFL annual meeting, and he said that, and I asked him why the Texans would work out Lamar Jackson if they basically have someone with a very similar skill set in Deshaun Watson. I thought maybe they want insurance, or maybe they're just playing keep away because he's such an electorate talent. And he said that the Texans do their due diligence on players they have a feeling they're going to face. And
that makes sense.
Lamar Jackson's one of them. But then I thought about it from an entirely other perspective. Where did Bill O'Brien come from? The Patriots, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, so why not the Patriots do the same thing? You know what I mean? It was just speculation. Yeah. I have to admit my bias. I'm really high on Lamar Jackson. I really think that this guy is gonna light up the NFL like nobody's business. And I can't wait.
I mean, he's dynamic. That's for sure.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. Because I said to Mike Mayock in 2009 at the Chelsea Piers luncheon for the NFL draft, I asked him if he thought the college passing game was more advanced than the NFL, and he gave me this silly look, and he said no. Because, and this is on video, folks, on Zennie62, he said because the NFL has more time to work on a passing concept. But that doesn't make any sense to me. You can work on a simple passing concept that doesn't advance the game anyway for hours on end, but it doesn't mean it's more advanced. So I didn't challenge him on camera, but I just took away from that the idea that, maybe these NFL guys don't quite understand what's coming from the college area, And I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think the college people are just more ahead of the NFL and brighter? What do you think?
I think it's so much easier a lot of these college spread offenses you see, the goal of them is to spread out the defense and make athletes be athletes. Mm-hmm. And in college, you have such inferior athletes that these simple concepts work because you don't need to get crazy. You don't need to run the Jimbo Fisher, Jameis Winston pro-style offense to really beat college teams anymore. It's like, hey, just spread it out, throw a few slants. Oklahoma State's playbook is about 10 plays with some variations off of those 10 plays. Mm-hmm. And it's so simple, but the tempo of their offense and the fact that they have better athletes than most of the Big 12 teams, it works. But when you get to the NFL, defensive coordinators themselves are smarter. The players are smarter. All of the players on defense are so superior and so, well-versed not only in their own scheme and their concept, but they're just amazing athletes that you can't run the same, just bullcrap spread stuff at these teams. They're going to catch on and they're going to be, and the other thing about the spread too is a lot of these concepts is they're so simplistic that they don't really adjust a whole lot. And so, and they don't also allow for, if you look at, I was studying, Lane Kiffin's West Coast offense the other day that he had, I forget who he was with in the NFL, but anyway, it had,
the Raiders.
Side adjustments and option routes and all kinds of just intricate, crazy things. Mm-hmm. And then I was looking at some of the run and gun stuff that Leach is running at Washington State and Urban Meyer at Florida. Uh-huh. And it's so simple. It's like, hey, go get open. Here's 3 simple routes. And it works, though. That's the problem, is it works, and then these guys come to the NFL, and they have no idea how to, do real things and read overlapping defenses and throw into the layers. So it's just a whole different ballgame, I think.
I take it back, though. Lane Kiffin did not have that offense with the Oakland Raiders in 2007 at all. It was as much as I want to give Lane Kiffin credit, I can't do that. That's just
I'm not saying it worked. I'm just saying studying his playbook, it was meant to work. It was meant to be something good, but it wasn't. It just didn't work. But if you put that offense on a different team with more talented players and maybe the coaching was a little better, something like that, it could have worked. But just studying the two playbooks side by side, some of these college ones and then some of the NFL, that not only is the verbiage and the lingo so much different and more advanced, but the concepts themselves and what they're asking of the quarterback and the actual receivers to do it was just night and day. It's like reading, a picture versus a novel. It was unbelievable.
I like that analogy. Hey, so I have a lot of Oakland Raider fans around here. What do you see for the Raiders when they come to number 10? What do you see happening?
That's a tough kind of spot to be in. I mean, it's a good spot to be in because I think they can kind of just let the board fall to them and evaluate probably 5 players and say, whoever, let's rank these players 1 to 5, and whoever's still there, we're going to take. I think they need their biggest needs. They need linebacker. I think cornerback and probably defensive tackle are their, right up front needs. And I think Tremaine Edmonds, Roquan Smith, if either of those two are sitting there at number 10, probably seem like the guys to take. I think the corner class is so deep that if they were to reach on some of these corners because I think the top 3 corners are, Ward, Hughes, and Alexander, Jair Alexander, respectively. And then if you really evaluate those guys, yeah, they're good, but they're kind of small. And I think they're less safe than maybe some of these linebackers or even some of the D linemen like Deron Payne, Vita Vea, even Taven Bryan. I think those guys can kind of change the defense more than a corner right now.
So so you're basically going for defense for the Raiders.
I am. I think their defense needs to get beefed up. I think they need offensive tackle, and I think they need wide receiver. But I think there's probably I have a lot of notes right here on day 2 picks and even day 3 picks that the Raiders could take at receiver. And day 2, I think they have a lot of different offensive tackles like Jamarco Jones from Ohio State, Brian O'Neill from Pitt, even Tyrell Crosby from Oregon. I think those guys will be there day 2.
Yeah.
But day 1, I think they got to go D-line or they got to go linebacker.
I told Reggie McKenzie at the NFL annual meeting, I said, if Cortland Sutton falls to you, take him. And I believe Cortland Sutton is going to be a transformative wide receiver. Now, I know that term transformative is thrown around, but let me explain. His style is a cross between Des Bryant and Anquan Bolden with a little Amari Cooper thrown in. He's a messy receiver. What I mean by that is he's so quick that he can catch the ball in spite of close coverage, literally drag the receiver, getting yards after the catch, and he goes up and he gets the ball in the red zone. He's that guy that doesn't need separation to be effective. And what I love about
that's true.
You know what I mean? And what I love about watching him play is that we have this era today where defensive backs are so fast and so quick that they can quite literally stifle the offense. But a guy like that, that's the kind of guy you want to fight for the ball, to give you that little sliver, to give you that back shoulder move that gets him open just for that second so he can make the play. I love watching him because, and like I say, he's messy. I had to wrap my mind around what I call the era of the messy wide receiver. But the era of the messy wide receiver is that because the cornerbacks are so quick and so athletic. They are, in a number of cases, the fastest guys on the team now. We didn't see that, 20 years ago, right? So I know what your thoughts. I'd like to know what your thoughts about that are.
I don't disagree with that. I think I don't think I'm as high on Sutton as you are, but I understand what you're saying, and I kind of agree about his game. I think he'll be there at 10 too, and that's the thing. I think he'll definitely be there at 10. My issues with Sutton was just the nuance in his game. I think coming from that SMU offense that really asked him to run no more than 3 routes on any given game. It was a hitch, kind of a slant, skinny post, and then a go route. I think it was just him facing such inferior athletes. It didn't teach him, even despite his size, he's not great at beating press. He doesn't have a lot of releases in his in his repertoire, and I think his route running is kind of a little funky. But it's just because he's high hipped, he's big. You know what I mean? I think he's kind of a Mike Evans type, where if you allow him to stay in stride and not really break down in space and do these complex routes, I think that's where his game is. If you're letting him attack safeties and get deep, you're going to have a rough time. I mean, as a defense, you're going to have a horrible time trying to guard him. I just think when he doesn't win small, but I don't think that's a bad thing, because I think if you put him in the right role, he doesn't need to win small. He can be who he is, And you're right. If he's covered, he's not covered because he can pretty much do any. I mean, his body control is amazing. His hands are amazing. He can out-jump pretty much anybody. And I think a lot of these small corners might stay with him and be in phase, but it doesn't matter. He's going to get that ball over him. So I don't disagree with you. If the Raiders didn't have such other pressing needs, especially on that defense, especially going against, Phillip Rivers, Patrick Mahomes, the Andy Reid offense, and then Denver reloading a little bit, I would say, maybe take Sutton. But I just feel like their defense is going to get trounced if they don't upgrade it. And I think Sutton will be there at 10. I don't think he'll be there in the second round. So I don't think they're going to have a shot at him unless they pounce on him in the top 10.
Hey, who is your number one receiver?
For me, it's Ridley still. It's got to be Ridley, and I just think there's too much that he does that I know is going to translate that, I can't see anyone that I would take over him at this point.
I have a question for you. What do you think about the Giants and what my viewer believes is the Jason Pierre-Paul dilemma? And I don't say that to diminish at all what my viewer is asking. I'm just trying to get the question out. What's your thought about the Giants and what they need to do?
Giants. Where do I start?
I love it.
I hate what they've done. I mean, I feel like some teams are a few pieces away, and I look at the Giants and I'm like, I could upgrade pretty much everywhere you guys have. I mean, I think they could upgrade at running back. I think they obviously need a quarterback at some point. And this sucks for them because I feel like they're the number 2 spot. This is the year where they could get any of 3 out of the 4 top quarterbacks, but they're probably not going to. I feel like they're going to take Saquon or something, So once again, they need quarterback. They need their offensive line needs to be upgraded. They need linebackers, re-signing Eli, and then talking about trading Odell potentially, and I feel like they've upgraded at certain spots that makes it kind of feel like a rebuild, but then they signed Nate Solder in free agency. To be honest with you, they're just giving mixed signals, and I feel like they're in win now mode, but if they take a quarterback, then that's the wrong move for that. But if they take Saquon, then they are in win now mode. They're just kind of giving up what they could be developing in the next few years if they take Rosen or Mayfield or something like that. You know what I mean?
How much of that do you think, though, is really a byproduct of the Giants first having, Floyd Reese as GM, then they got rid of Floyd, and it seemed like the ownership was almost weirded out or apoplectic or whatever about what was going on and the unexpected outcome, and they just started making moves almost like maybe on Thursday you had Wimpy making this move, and then on Friday you had Sam making this move, and then on Monday you had Jay making this move, and next thing you know, everybody was mixed up. That's the way it looks to me. It looks like they had no coherent organization, and then Dave Gettleman comes in who, look, affable guy, heard him speak at the NFL meeting, didn't have a one-on-one with him, but given his track record, I'm not sold on Gettleman as being the answer for the Giants. I don't know what you think. What do you think? You're the expert here. What do you think?
I'm just a guy. I think you said it right. It feels like 12 different people made 12 different decisions. And it's like, where's the consistency? Like, what are you guys shooting for here? Gettleman comes in, and I know he keeps saying that, everyone's quoting his statement now. He wants to envision his first-round pick wearing a gold jacket every day. What if that player isn't in this class? I mean, this class doesn't look like it has a Myles Garrett or a Clowney or even a Khalil Mack or, anyone at any position that I would say, oh, he's a definite Hall of Famer. Maybe quarterback. Maybe Darnold or Rosen is one of those guys for you. But let's say they're not in, or let's say they are in win now mode and they don't want to take a quarterback. They want to get the most out of Eli and Pat Shurmur. Who do they see taking, or who do they see being that future Hall of Famer? What if you look at this class and you say, he's just not in this class?
Yeah,
what?
Yeah. I'll say one thing. If the Giants don't feel compelled to concentrate on Davis Webb, I'd love to take him off their hands. That's a wasted talent for the Golden Bear to, that be in that situation is just horrible. That guy's got, to me, all pro written all over him in the right situation. I don't know what you think about that, but I'm partial because he's a Golden Bear like I am, but still, what do you think?
I think, what did they spend, a second or a third round pick on Davis Webb?
Second.
In a second. Okay, if you're going to take a second-round pick, you're imagining that player being a starter at some point, which is another thing. And I know Gettleman didn't draft Davis Webb. I understand that. It's just like Dorsey didn't draft Deshaun Kaiser. So, he moved on from him. But now Gettleman's being so, I don't want to say hush-hush, but, like, confusing about his intentions. We haven't heard his thoughts on Davis Webb. I mean, this is a second-round draft pick we're talking about. It's a big guy with an arm. He's an underrated athlete. I think he can move a little better than people think. If you're not going to entertain using him as being your starter someday, you're right. Move on from him. Move him. Trade it. Do something.
And I stand corrected.
That's another thing. It's like I'm with you. Like, what? I have no idea what the Giants are doing. And normally I'm at this point of the season or the pre-draft process, I'm like, I have a good feel with every team. There's a lot of teams right now that I just don't know what's going on.
I was wrong. He was third-round pick. He was pick number 87, so I stand corrected. But even then, as a third-round pick, you still, with a guy of that caliber who's starting for the Golden Bears, you're not rooting for him not to start, okay? You're trying to give him a chance to prove himself. And so the Giants, in that vein, are puzzling. And then the scheme that they had for Geno Smith, I've always been high on Geno Smith. I know it sounds funny to a lot of people, but I believe that Geno is that guy that needs to be tutored, thrown in, and then you have to have a repertoire of plays that prove you understand what he's good at and not, and let him sink. I don't think he's going to sink. Let him grow with the system. And Geno has not, for the most part, had that opportunity. Now, I do admit that Geno has some immaturity issues, but I also, and this because I've personally talked with him, I also believe that he's trying to grow up. Okay, I mean, he's trying to get over the young Geno, and his first agent treated him like crap because he was going to fire him, and so at the draft, these guys turn around and start bad-mouthing him to people in the press, like Jason Cole, who went out there and pushed that stuff out anyway. I was there when it happened. So Geno has had a hard road. Part his fault, yes. Part the fault of his agent that he fired, yes. Part the fault of organizations that didn't want to install the air raid and let him flourish in the offense that he performed in college, which is kind of a logical thing, you know what I mean? But moving, I don't know what your thoughts about that before we move forward. But we're on with Justin, the draft guru of NFL Draft Bible. Hey, how did you meet Rick Saratella, by the way?
Rick said, so me and Rick actually met through Twitter. Rick emailed me. I think he started liking some of my posts or something at one point, like 4 years ago, something like that. And he ended up DMing me and asking for my email and wanted to just talk. And so we started talking. He got my phone number. I think we had like a 4-hour conversation. And the next thing you know, he was like, hey, would you like to come, write and work for NFL Draft Bible?
Wow.
And I couldn't believe it at the time. I was like, there's no way, like off of Twitter, but I mean, we joke about how stupid Twitter can be sometimes, but hey, like people meet other good people on that site, and there's careers that can be made out of that. So, right. I mean, I think it's kind of an underrated platform to get into the business and get into the industry.
Yeah, well, people can see what you're thinking, and you meet
make fun of you,
right? Make fun of you or anything, Now, he's got. What do you think? I'm moving down here. We talked about the Raiders. Let's talk about another favorite team of mine, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What do you feel the Bucs' needs are at this time?
Well, shoot, I think ever since they drafted Jameis Winston, they haven't had a capable O-line. So I think a left tackle or any tackle for that team, because he's, he had Donovan Smith at tackle, and Donovan Smith might not even be that good of a guard, and they had him at left tackle. And I think they need running back because, Doug Martin is gone, and I'm not even sure who they have in their backfield at this point. But I know they need some running back.
Right, they have Jacquez Rogers as the guy. And I don't know why they're in love with him, because
I don't either. I don't get it.
That's puzzling to me. I
think it's the Dirk Cutter connection, right? I mean, he played in Atlanta with Cutter.
That would not surprise me, but also something that Coach Cutter said, who I like personally, by the way, at the NFL annual meeting, and this is on video at Zennie62 on YouTube here. Coach Cutter said that I always want to say welcome back Cotter, but Coach Cotter said that he prefers a veteran running back over a rookie. He would never draft a rookie, which is why I think he passed on the Florida State Delvin last year. But he said that the reason is you can't effectively teach blocking to a rookie. Most rookies don't get the tutelage that makes them a great blocker and a great person to pick up the blitz. He would rather have a veteran running back to do that, which explains the running backs he has in his stable right now. I personally think that's a mistake in judgment, but I'm just explaining to you what Coach Carter said. So there you go.
I think that's kind of interesting because what does that mean? He's going to always get free agent running backs? I mean, at some point, you're going to have to get some young talent and develop them.
That's what it sounds like.
I understand his thought process there because I know how hard it is to teach running backs, the protections, and not only teach them the protections and when to block and who to block and where to block, but also just them executing it is equally as hard. So I understand his frustrations. I mean, I remember watching Hard Knocks, and it was like they stressed that every time they showed one of those episodes and in practice how the running backs just couldn't figure it out. But, I mean, I think it's such an important thing that at some point you either draft a running back who you've seen do it effectively in college or you draft a guy who you think can do it, and you just force yourself to teach him because you can't live with Jacquizz Rodgers forever.
No, not at all. One of my viewers says that Bucks are taking Quentin Nelson if he's on the board. What do you think about that?
I think they have other needs. I think they can get, James Daniels, Will Hernandez, Frank Ragnow, maybe another interior guy in round 2. Mm-hmm. If I'm the Bucks, I kind of think they have needs at safety. They have needs at corner. They have needs at the D-line. I think stopping the run would be their first thing. Forcing some more 3-and-outs. Letting some of their younger pass rushers get after the quarterback would be ideal. I'm just always, my philosophy though is build from the front back. So build your D-line, build your linebacking core, get those guys going first, and then, worry about the skill stuff because a cornerback is only as good as, his defensive line getting pressure or, stopping the run and forcing those 3rd and longs. But yeah, I personally, I don't see Quentin Nelson. I think taking a guard in the top 10 is just so risky.
Yeah.
Unless you absolutely need it or you're building a special offensive line like, the Cowboys had at one point. But if there's no other guards that you can take later, maybe take Nelson. But I think there's value to be had later in the draft on day 2, and I think that'd be a mistake to take Nelson up there.
Or you have a guy like Laramie Tunsil was thought to be such a transitive figure that you had to take him number 1 until, of course, that famous video surfaced where Ian Rappaport said on NFL Network, and folks, there is a video of Laramie Tunsil smoking a bong going around the internet. And I was in the interview room waiting for Laramie Tunsil to come out later and got the first question out. You can see that on Zennie62 on YouTube. Ask him how he was feeling and everything. And then I said, what happened? And it pretty much went downhill from there, to which I thought he was going to fight a sports reporter on the way out the door. I'm not kidding. You got to see it for yourself. Yeah. It was pretty.
I might have to watch that for sure, yeah.
You got to watch it, man. Deadspin picked it up. Didn't credit me, though. I had to get after them. But they credit ESPN when they find their videos. So when I said to the Deadspin PA, why don't you credit me? They said, this is for Zennie62 who doesn't understand how the internet works. Excuse me? I don't understand how the internet works. You guys are trying to steal my stuff and not give me credit. Heck with you, Deadspin, but I digress. All right. Back to our talk about this. As you can tell, I'm still salty about that. It's like
not at all. Couldn't tell, man.
Oh yeah, no. I hide it very, very well. Let's talk about the Cleveland Browns. They've got the unique position of having 2 picks in the first 4. What do you see the Browns doing?
Browns, they got to take their quarterback. I hate the idea of, hey, trade back that number 1 pick and take your quarterback at 4. No, you do your due diligence. This is a historic, possibly quarterback class. You have 4 guys that we know are being talked about in the top 5. Do not trade back that first pick. Take your guy, do your homework. Take your guy that you like, that you're in love with at that number 1 pick. And then I hate to say, let the board fall and see what's up at number 4 because that just seems kind of irresponsible and like, they should know what they're going to do it for. But it's one of those things, again, when you build your board, you build it with certain ranges for certain players, and they've got to know who could possibly be there at 4. And they have to know there will be a quarterback taken by them, so one gone. A quarterback will be taken at 3 by the Jets, so at least 2 quarterbacks are gone. Mm-hmm. So worst case, they have 1 non-quarterback gone, or not, taken in front of them. Worst case, the Giants take Barkley, okay? Mm-hmm. So they would have, the Browns would have their pick of Bradley Chubb, Quentin Nelson if they really wanted to do that, Roquan Smith, Truman Ed. I mean, they have so many opportunities, or they have so many players to choose from. It's like Dorsey can't screw this up. You just have your pick at pretty much anyone this year. Don't mess it up. Do your very best scouting work this year. Take the players you're in love with. Don't worry about, it's the 4th overall pick. Don't worry about that. Take the guy that you feel is best and live with that decision and find out, who you want to fit into your defense. I think too often we look at the, what slot pick it is. Oh, it's number 4. It puts so much pressure on us. No, I mean, that means at the very least you get the 4th best player in the draft. So do that and don't worry about it. I don't see how the Browns mess this up. I think Dorsey's got his head on straight right now, and I really think he's going to knock this out of the park, just because you can tell he's building this team with fast, physical players. He knows what he's doing, and I think some people might not agree with all his plans. But if as long as you're consistent as a GM, just like Dan Quinn or Dimitroff and the Atlanta staff, they might not pick all the players that are ranked highest on everyone's boards, but they're building a team a certain way, and they're not just picking players; they're putting the puzzle together. And I think Dorsey's kind of doing that too. So I think the Browns are going to crush this one.
Hey, what do you think? Speaking of the Falcons, oh, by the way, John Davis says that, or asks this question: should the Raiders go Denzel Ward or Roquan Smith if they are both there?
I think the Raiders have to go Roquan Smith. Denzel Ward is good, but he's 185 pounds, soaking wet. He's 5'11". Mm-hmm. I think he's a really, really good cornerback. But this cornerback class is so deep that you can get someone good round 2, round 3. Where Roquan Smith is not going to be there round 2. This guy is someone that you either take right now when he's on the board, or you don't get him at all. And there's no guarantee he even falls to the 10th pick. So when you think about that, if he does fall to there, I mean, this is your Mike linebacker for 10 years. So draft this special talent.
Well said.
Put him on your team. Right. Let him lead the defense. Boom.
I want to argue with you, though. Why shouldn't the Browns take Lamar Jackson number 1?
See, I'm not as high on Jackson as some people are. I think, his running ability is absolutely insane. I mean, you could argue he's a better runner than Michael Vick was. And that is, I mean, just hearing myself say it out loud is kind of crazy, because Vick was obviously just a cheat code on the field. But I think Jackson, coming from when I really studied Jackson's offense and his all-22, it was simpler than people want to make it. I think we think, he came from Petrino's offense, but Petrino kind of held that offense back a little bit. He kind of, reined it in and said, here's some simple things. And I think Jackson shows a lot of mechanical issues. He shows a lot of accuracy issues. He was slow processing the field. I think he's a great talent, but I do think there's some work to be done. I think he's more of a late first, early second, mid-second round pick. I think this is a guy you don't want to come in and lead your team year 1, because you really have to cater your offense to him and his skill set.
Here's my issue. His receivers dropped a lot of balls. I watched a lot of his games. So I don't get this accuracy thing when you've got people not holding on to your football and you're turning around. And I'm a fan of his. I'm yelling at the receiver. And then, okay. So the other thing is that the plays that he ran, first of all, the Louisville offense doesn't have that many plays. They were basically the same number that, for the most part, Teddy Bridgewater ran, but Bridgewater had a different skill set, except that they didn't run as many drive patterns. They ran some, but not as many. Additionally, as far as what he's capable of, I think it's a disservice to Lamar Jackson to compare him to Michael Vick for this reason. Michael Vick was not a passer. And Lamar Jackson, I mean, particularly when you get him inside the red zone or even out in the 30, I'm sorry, it's lights out. He's going to score. He's going to throw that dart that just makes you think, excuse me, was that a laser? he is outstanding, and I don't get this desire. It seems to almost diminish him. I've seen actually the fellow that I like is I hesitate to pump him up too much, but Mason Rudolph I like. I like his arm. I think he's got a live arm. I am way not high on Josh Allen. Josh Allen is going to be a bust. I'm just telling you right now, bust. This guy's pro day. He's throwing deep balls. He missed the receiver open by a full 2 yards, and Mike Mayock is on the NFL Network saying, that was a great throw. And I'm yelling at the screen saying, Mike. And I'm telling you, okay, this is one reason why, even though I'm missing this draft, I don't go over to Mike Mayock's table. I have nothing personally against Mike Mayock, but I do not see Mike Mayock as this draft guru more so than, say, Charles Davis. I think Charles Davis is really a guru. You know, because
I think what we have to realize about Mike Mayock too is he works for NFL Network, and he kind of ranks his players more on what sources are telling him than just doing pure evaluating and putting his own neck on the line.
Yeah.
And I think that's been really apparent this year. And with let me just respond to you with Jackson real quick, because I think that's fair. His receivers did drop a lot of balls.
Because I said I wanted to argue. So we're arguing first.
What?
I said I wanted to argue, so we're arguing first take style. I'm being funny.
we're skipping Shannon right now.
Yeah.
Where we are. Well, Jackson. So I had a buddy of mine who my most trusted scouting buddy, and we usually do. I mean, we try to do pretty much all our work together, and we bounce ideas off each other all draft season for the last, I think, 3 or 4 years. And what we noticed with Lamar Jackson was he's got that really short arm release. He kind of whips and flicks the ball. So his ability to control his velocity was kind of funky. His ability to control his placement was kind of funky. And so his receivers, you could tell, I mean, there was times when he would throw a beautiful slant pattern. Then the very next play, he'd throw the same, or, 5 plays later, he's throwing another slant or another dig route to the same receiver. And this ball is coming twice as fast as the last one did, and it's at his face instead of out in front of him. It felt like his receivers just kind of had a tough time reading his ability to get in rhythm. As a passer, it was like, again, gorgeous swing pattern right on the, right on the hip of the running back. Very next 3 plays later or whatever, he's absolutely decapitating that same running back. And it was like his release and his feet were always so inconsistent that I don't think, anyone on his team really got a good feel for what he was doing as a passer, where a guy like Rosen or Darnold, it's just robotic for them. They know what they're doing. They've been doing this for years, and they kind of have all their body down, where Lamar Jackson is such a loose, fluid athlete. It's almost like he's still trying to figure out how to get that muscle memory down of, snap to set up to delivery to release, where, you know what I mean? And it just felt like consistently I couldn't figure out where he was going to put that ball in his receiver.
I think
he was good throwing between the numbers, but I think throwing out routes, throwing outside the numbers, you saw, especially against like Mississippi State, LSU, Clemson, you would see him just launching bullets everywhere, and you couldn't predict where they're headed.
But I'll tell you, though, the main problem is that his coach, Bobby Petrino, has never been best at coaching the passing game. And you have people who, like, for example, with Carson Wentz in North Dakota State, were taught the basic principles that Bill Walsh installed that have infected the league and become the norm, are not uniformly applied everywhere. So we talk about quarterbacks throwing with or without a hitch step, which is hard to do. But when Lamar gets into the league, the intelligent team will work on that with him. And if he wants to be successful, which I believe he does, he'll work on that himself. And he's already, I understand, improved, just between the combine and now in working out. So he's got that hunger to be better that I think is going to translate. And the scariest thing in the world is Lamar Jackson that can throw like Tom Brady. If he goes to the Patriots, the NFL will not be the same. That is a human nuclear bomb on your offense, okay? And I'm sorry, I want that nuclear bomb on my offense. And when I say nuclear bomb, I'm not going to put him anywhere other than quarterback, because that's where he's really going to be a nuke. I mean, this guy is going to destroy the NFL if he gets with the right organization. If not, he'll sit around for a bit and then go someplace else. But Allen locks on his receivers. A lot of these guys don't have what Carson Wentz had, which is that football IQ that set Carson Wentz apart. That I really, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I was wrong about Carson Wentz. I didn't think he was going to be as good, but the one wild card with Carson Wentz that proved me wrong was that Doug Peterson was smart enough to put him in an offense that was very much like he played at North Dakota State, right? That's
exactly, yep.
You know what I'm saying, you know. Hey, so I want to get your opinion, shifting gears and talking about top defensive ends. And we mentioned Bradley Chubb, but if Chubb is gone, who's next to on your board? Who do you like? Oh, by the way, thanks for sparring with me. That was fun stuff.
I dug that. Yeah. Hey, we didn't even have to yell at each other. Or
No.
Each other.
It's just fun.
What the heck?
Yeah, it's fun stuff. Dang it.
As far as this is a weird edge class. I think Chubb is probably your top guy. But there's also Harold Landry, and I think Harold Landry obviously played through that shoulder injury in 2017, and he didn't look the same. I think 2016 Harold Landry was a better pure pass rusher than Bradley Chubb is. Mm-hmm. Chubb gives you the size, though. Chubb gives you the ability against the run. He's a bigger guy. He's got more strength, obviously. But you're going to have to evaluate, whether you value this speed pass rusher versus this all-around solid base end. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the interesting thing is, and then you got Arden Key, who's just total wild card. We don't know. I haven't met Arden Key. I don't know if he loves the game of football. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he has, returned to his original playing weight that he looked amazing at. I don't know what his mindset is right now. I think he's got a really high upside. But again, he's an outside linebacker. He's not a defensive end. He's just too thin, too lanky. And then there's Josh Sweat from Florida State, who I like. But it's tough to evaluate him because Florida State just used him in such weird ways. And then he came off that ACL, that injury with the knee. And I'm not sure he ever looked like 100% again. It was just, he's an odd prospect. Some of the sleepers, though, that I think might outperform some of these the guys who are going to be drafted day 1, day 2. Mm-hmm. Maybe Rasheem Green from USC. His length, his strength, the power in his hands, the overall athleticism he's blessed with is amazing. I've said this so many times. I spoke at a scout at the USC Colorado game. I was there in attendance. And this scout goes, Rasheem Green is maybe one of the best players in this game, period. Not just, on the D-line. Like, as far as any player in this game, including Darnold, Ronald Jones, Iman Marshall, this guy is maybe one of the best, maybe the best one. And then Dorrance Armstrong from Kansas. He had 10 sacks in 2016. And then in 2017, they moved him to freaking defensive end in a 3-4 defense, and he's like 265. He didn't look natural, obviously, but when you go back to 2016 and watch him and what he can do when he's able to pin his ears back and just get after the quarterback, the length, the bend, the fluidity that he has been given, it's wonderful. I think those two guys, and then Kamoko Toure from Rutgers, he's had an odd career at Rutgers, but another athlete that you bet on traits with pass rushers.
Good point.
Is kind of how I look at it. And these guys all possess traits that coaches are going to say, give me this guy. I'm going to work with him, and he's going to be something special.
Now, let's go to, after having talked about that, let's go to tight end. Who do you like at tight ends?
Tight end. I think there's a lot of good tight ends in this class. I think some of these tight ends just weren't given the opportunity to be pass catchers as much as some of the others were. But I think Dallas Goedert is great. He's a little smaller than some of the other ones, but I think he's probably the most natural tight end as far as pass catcher. Gesicki, he's that, huge, long volleyball player looking dude. Mm-hmm. I think he's a little herky-jerky, a little clumsy, but he played volleyball, and you can tell. The dude can sky. Mark Andrews from Oklahoma, I think he's kind of one of these guys that just burns down the seam. He's a big body, probably very limited route tree, and limited as a blocker as well, but I think he's a guy that can stretch the seam. The most underrated tight end for me is Herndon from Miami. I think as far as athletic upside goes, he might be the best of this class, but he was hurt. I forget what injury he had, but he was hurt last year, I think for most of the year. And I forget what he I am drawing a whole blank on what, if he's a redshirt sophomore or junior, but I think he's a guy that I remember watching on tape saying, this guy's athletic.
Mm-hmm.
He can, as a pass catcher, this dude's going to do some damage if he stays healthy.
Hey, G. Taylor wants to know what your Twitter handle is.
My Twitter handle, it's @GamScout. So GAM and then Scout. First 3 letters of my last name and then Scout.
And we're on with Justin Gamble, who, I said Gamble. Gamble. I have to read camel like Gamble. Camel like Gamble, basically. But
Gamble. 2 G's, camel with 2 G's or 2 M's and a G.
What do you think the Patriots are really going to do? Do you think they're going to take their 2 picks and just be content to sit back there, or you think they're going to deal and wheel and move up?
Oh, man, if I could ever predict a Belichick move correctly, I would have to be Jesus Christ. Because he is – I have no idea. Personally, I feel like –
Wait. I just got a call from Guy. You're a Jesus Christ for all of the next 5 minutes, so go for it.
Oh, man. I feel like they could take Rosen. I feel like they could trade up, and they could take Rosen. Mm-hmm. Who better to replace Tom Brady in 2-3 years than Josh Rosen himself? Yeah. I think Rosen is the best prospect I've seen since Luck. I think he does a lot of the subtle things Brady does, and I think Belichick would just absolutely love him. They could package their 2 first-round picks, maybe a next year's first-round pick or a second round, maybe move up to number 5 where Denver is, and, take their guy. But, I would know what Belichick's ever going to do.
Now we got Jay Boogie says that Brown's ideal top pick is Darnold 1, and he says Chubb 4. And Jay Boogie then says Roquan won't make it past number 9. Denzel Ward is Philip Buchanan number 2. And then he says you don't take Lamar Jackson number 1 because you can get him lower in the draft. But the whole point is that if you're Cleveland Browns and you're 1 and 4, that's it. Because I'm telling you, Lamar Jackson is not at all going to fall into the second round. You believe that? I got some swampland in Florida I want to sell you. That guy is going somewhere, and it may very well be to Adam Gase, or heck, I think Andy Reid said it best about him. Andy Reid's not in a position to take him. But anyway, going back to our draft discussion, I got to ask you as well, since I'm looking at them. What do you think about the Chicago Bears? They gave up a king's ransom to get Mitch Trubisky last year. I was there when they did it. You can watch the video right here on Zennie62 where I surprisingly looked up and said, and the Bears just gave away the draft to get Mitch Trubisky, and then I read off the deal. But now we have the Bears, and the Bears are at number 8. What say you about my Chicago Bears?
Oh, the Bears. I actually just did a little draft project with NBC Sports Chicago, and we went over some of the prospects that they could potentially be targeting, and they have a lot of needs. I mean, don't get me wrong. They have quite a bit of things that quite a bit of players at different positions they could take, and no one's going to argue with them because they need them. Mm-hmm. I think Minkah Fitzpatrick could fall to number 8. I think Harold Landry will probably be there if they feel like they need that speed rusher, and I think that would be a big move for them. Their defense needs to get younger. It needs to get faster. It needs to become the Bears defense we all used to know and love, and I think Landry and Fitzpatrick both fit that mold of young, athletic, speedy talent. I don't see... Personally, to take Denzel Ward, I've heard Denzel Ward's name up there. Mm-hmm. That feels like a little bit of a reach. It feels like that's not the guy I want in that division, but that's just me. And I think defense is their biggest priority. I think Roquan Smith, Harold Landry, Minkah Fitzpatrick, whichever one of those 3 falls to that 8 spot is who the Bears need to take.
Eric Souza, how you doing? Welcome. We've got Justin Gamble on talking NFL Draft 2018, our NFL Draft preview show. And what do you think the San Francisco 49ers at number 9 will do?
I haven't thought about the Niners a whole lot.
Let me help you out there. Do you think that they've had so many defenders that have wound up in jail of late that
yeah.
Is it just, I'm being facetious here, but is it a good idea they go for a defender? Because it seems like they obviously can't choose a great defender high because the guy winds up in jail at some point. What is going on with the 49ers?
They're losing players left and right. I mean,
Yeah.
P. Willis retires, Borland retires. Yeah.
Reuben Foster's in trouble. He was just, in court. And then, of course, we know what happened with Alden Smith's sad story. Sad story.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean,
I think they have a lot of needs on defense, but they could also go receiver.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what their depth chart looks like at receiver, but I feel like they did need some receiver. Maybe even Cortland Sutton. I know that's your boy.
He'll be a great
Cortland
choice.
Sutton's there. Yeah. They could take him.
Yeah. I'm looking at FC 49ers roster right now to see where we're at. And right now, the 49ers roster, as it looks right now, I'll read it off to you. If you know one thing, once again, that these pages are laden with these JavaScript ads, and so it's slow to open. Now it's open, okay? But they've got Armstead at defensive line. I knew it defensive line. I'm going to go down. Of course, C.J. Beathard at quarterback. Roland Starr the third at defensive line. Wide receivers Victor Bolin Jr. They've got Kendrick Burns. They've got basically a bunch of wide receivers. Aaron Burbridge that you never heard of. DeAndre Carter, who came over from. He came over from. Was he with the Colts at one point? Tight end.
Was,
not. Yeah. They've got...
so receiver, defensive end, strong safety is what it looks like here on NFLDraftScout.com.
Yeah, they basically have a bunch of guys and Pierre Garçon at wide receiver. Okay? I mean, that's...
And Garçon is not a number one type.
Right, exactly. He was many moons ago, but that was many moons ago. So, the 49ers are one of those teams where you could say, yeah, but they won the last 6 games, which means that if Kyle Shanahan has, the right mix, and maybe he's, the genius that some people think, these guys would be household names by the end of the season. I doubt it. But what say you?
I agree with you. Let's see. They caught Garoppolo, and now, I mean, their offensive line isn't the worst thing I've ever seen, but looking at the receiver depth chart is a little troubling. I do think that's got to be their priority, but number 9, that just feels like reaching a little bit for a receiver at this point, I think.
Yeah.
But, like you said, Sutton is that guy that's going to help a young quarterback. He's going to be that safety blanket where even if he's covered, hey, lob it up to him. He's not that covered. And then defensive end, I think, hey, if Landry falls past 8 with Chicago, you got to say the 49ers have a lot of needs. It felt like they were that team that was on their way up.
Yep.
And have been building something special, but they've lost a lot of people lately. And, I think they have more needs than I think I even realized at this point.
Yeah. Hey, what do you think about the possibility of LSU running back Darius Geis going over there to the Niners?
I like that fit. I don't know if number 9 is the place where I would take Geis, mainly just because this running back class is so deep. I like Geis a lot. I think he's a first-round talent, but this running back class is deep, and taking Geis at number 9 feels like a reach. I do have some questions about Geis' style, too. He's a tough runner, but is that tough running style going to expose him to hits that he's not going to want to take long term? I mean, I know he wasn't really an oft-injured guy. Well, that's not true. He was injured a lot of 2017. And so, I mean, I have questions with him, I think. But Shanahan's style, it feels like a guy, Ronald Jones, if he's there in the second round, in that zone running scheme, that feels like a good fit for them. He gives them that home run threat. Hey, he doesn't even have to move that far. But I think he's a good receiver out of the backfield. Maybe Shanahan might dig that.
Now, a prediction here from Jay Boogie, who's quite loquacious in the text form. He says, 49ers will try and trade up to get Chubb. If they're not able to do it, it would be either Roquan Smith or Josh Jackson. So we're writing this down, Jay Boogie. If you're wrong, I'm going to let you know, man. We got your number now, man. All right, anyway.
We know where you live.
We know you live, man.
Josh Jackson, that's it. And see, he's another guy that feels like a big reach for me. And I think NFL teams are going to be a lot lower on Josh Jackson than the media, simply because, it doesn't matter what scheme you run on defense anymore these days. You're going to have to come out of that scheme, that base look. and play other things. I think Josh Jackson's a great zone defender, but if you're asking him to come in and be a top 10 pick and play man-to-man coverage on some of the better receivers in the NFL, I know they have Richard Sherman now, but if you're going to ask Jackson still to play boundary corner against some of the better, I mean, there's some good number 2 receivers in the NFL right now. He's not going to hold up in man. Do you want this kid guarding Martavis Bryant or Antonio Brown, whichever one of those guys he ends up with, if they have to play Pittsburgh, just hypothetically? No, I really don't. I think he's got a long ways to go. I think he's more of a second-round pick than an early first-round pick.
Hey, John Davis asked, what if Saquon Barkley fell to the 49ers?
Shanahan loves those receiving backs. I could see that. I mean, I think if he falls all the way to number 9, it's not even about need at this point. It's just basically, hey, this top talent fell all the way to us. We can't let him fall past. I think at that point, it does. You scrap your board, you scrap your needs, and you take Barkley because he's a special talent. And Shanahan's offense, it really puts a lot of it asks the running backs to be receivers. It asks them to catch out of the backfield a lot. And I mean, obviously, as we know, that's Barkley's biggest strength. And he's so dynamic when asked to do that. So that not only is it a great fit, but it's great value, even though it probably wasn't your biggest need as the 49ers go.
I'm going to tell you, for all the protestations to the contrary, I would be shocked if the Bucs passed on Saquon Barkley. You've got Jason Licht as their general manager. His one-loss record is not the best. He's got to come up with a draft that produces a winner. And, I think this is Dirk Carter's make-or-break year. He spent a lot of time blaming, Jameis Winston every time he lost the game, and maybe Jameis threw this interception. But he is the head coach. And this is a man who is allergic to analysis. And so Dirk Carter, has not put together that winning squad, in my view. I'm very concerned. We're going to see what kind of team they are with him the first 4 games out, right out of the gate, because they've got the Steelers, they've got the Eagles, and I believe they have the Falcons. I mean, they have a murderer's row schedule coming out to open the first 4 to 5 games. We're going to find out what they're made of. One radio person out here in Atlanta said that October 5th was going to be Dirk Carter firing week, or the first week in October was going to be Dirk Carter firing week. I hope not for his sake, but he doesn't give you that confidence, So
he doesn't.
He doesn't. Like I say, nice guy, like talking with him, but I made a video, which Coach Carter may have seen. Maybe that's why he was a little different to me this annual meeting. It called for him to be fired as offensive coordinator because, among other things, he had a situation where the receivers would roll into their patterns. Like, for example, if you're running an out, rather than, let's say you're running a 12-yard out, you go up, you're supposed to really, ideally, make a move that shakes the defensive back before you go into it. But instead, his receivers just sort of roll into it. They would make a curve. And I talked to Josh Norman about this when the Carolina Panthers were in the Super Bowl against the Denver Broncos, and I was part of the media. And he said to me right on camera that they were predictable and in their route running. That falls on Coach Carter, and I'm thinking now he's the head coach, and so he brings those mistakes and those problems with him, and it's obvious when you watch the Bucs play that they lack precision in the coaching of the passing game and the execution of the passing game. Jameis Winston is not allowed to really be that questioner that says, hey, we need to do X, Y, and Z like he was with Jimbo Fisher, because, Jameis wants to make everybody happy, and so he's just, and plus he's being paid millions now, so his mindset's different, but it just magnifies the problems that your Coach Carter has that he has not cleared up with the Bucs. And again, I hope I'm wrong, but I haven't seen it yet. I don't know what you think. What do you think?
Yeah, Cutter feels like that guy that needs to be remotivated as a coach. I mean, when you watch him in person, when you watch his interviews, when you watch Hard Knocks, it felt like he was kind of stagnant as a coach. Like, it felt like he was just kind of in a rut, but maybe he didn't even know it yet. And then I love Jameis Winston
Yeah.
as a leader. I've liked him since his Florida State days. And I make it a point to watch. I watched every single game last year on all 22. I made sure I went through the coach's film. I wanted to chart his interceptions, see what the offense was doing. Their offense was terribly predictable. It was just weak as a whole. It was predictable. It was just, it didn't, evolve.
Nope.
It felt like it just stayed the same, and they didn't counter their own moves. They didn't adjust with, their opponent's adjustments. And it kind of just reaffirmed that, Cutter is in a rut right now, and this dude needs to rejuvenate himself, his offense, his players. Things need to change, but, whoever tweeted that at you, or whoever asked that question, is October his firing day. I could see it because, if they go 0-4 those first 4 tough games of the season, do we really think Cutter's staying around? I don't think so. I think he's got too good of a quarterback to, let go to waste. And if he... Yikes, man. Yeah, if he goes 0-4, he's gone.
Hey, how are we doing on time? Because I thought we had you for a little bit. I don't want to make any mistakes. How much time we got you for?
I moved some things around. I probably have about 5 more minutes if we can,
awesome.
if we can make that work.
Yeah, cool. Eric Souza says 49ers need to tight end trade back to the 9th pick. He thinks to take Dallas Goedert. What do you think about that? Security blanket for Garoppolo.
We're talking about taking Goddard, the tight end, in the top 10?
That's what he says. He says trade back from the 9th pick, which means that...
Oh, trade back.
And Eric, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Eric Souza believes that Goddard's going to be available lower. Trade back how far? Eric didn't say. I'm always not for trading back. I think that if you have a player like a Goddard that you know is going to be in the first round, you might as well take him a little higher. I mean, we're not talking about a situation like 2007. We were at the NFL draft, and Al Davis took Darius Haywood-Bay, who was a clear third rounder in the first round, right? That's not what we're talking
but he had
about.
first round speed, so
He sure did. He sure did.
I don't see, and I don't know if I'm old school in a lot of my ideologies and beliefs about football, but for some reason I don't value tight ends as high as other people. And maybe it's because unless I see a tight end that I feel is truly a special talent, I'm not taking him, top 20. And I don't think Goddard fits that mold. I think Goddard's good, but he's another one of these guys who's going to give you reliable hands. He's going to give you, above average speed-ish. But realistically, he's not transforming your offense. And I think, going back, I know it's one example and only one example, but the Lions took Eric Ebron over Odell Beckham Jr., and we've seen how that worked out. And Eric Ebron is more athletic than any of these tight ends. So take guys that are going to transform your offense and bring dynamicism, and then, find a tight end in the 3rd round, because that's when you can, that's when they're still gems, and they're still going to be Mark Andrews there in the 2nd or 3rd round. There's still going to be, Dalton Schultz from Stanford, Durham Smythe from Notre Dame. And these guys have shown that they're quality pass catchers. They just weren't given as many opportunities like Goddard. But don't reach on a position or an athlete that isn't, near elite or something dynamic. I just think that's too high for Goddard, especially.
That makes a lot of sense. Hey, Boogie has a question. He says, what are the Panthers going to do? Are they going to get North Turner a power running back?
Yikes. Panthers. Well, I mean, let's see. Okay, so they have Christian McCaffrey. Who is their other running back on their roster right now? Do we know who that is?
Jonathan Stewart. Unless they've made a trade I'm not aware of. Jonathan Stewart. I can check the roster.
No, Jonathan Stewart is a Giant now.
He's a Giant. Whoa. Hello.
Yeah.
Well, shows you I've been paying attention too much to the Raiders Las Vegas stuff.
Let's see. I'm looking at their depth, but it's their need. I think Carolina needs wide receiver. It's something terrible. They have Funchess, Curtis Samuel. I'm trying to think if they still have Philly Brown. I think they lost Philly Brown.
Artis Payne Cameron running back. They've got let's see here. Alex Armand at fullback as we scroll down here, and then we've got wide receiver, linebacker, running back. They've got Christian McCaffrey, of course, and I was trying to run out of people. They're not deep. Oh wait a minute, they have Fuzzy Whitaker Yeah.
Fozzie, oh, the kid from Texas.
Yeah.
So let's see.
Yeah.
The Panthers are at 24.
Mm-hmm.
At that range, I mean, I think the mistake they keep making is they're picking the wrong kind of receivers for Cam Newton. They need someone who's going to be a reliable route runner, but, you know, has some speed. Someone that is going to be where Cam needs him to be and is going to be able to catch those bullets on time.
You mean like Kelvin Benjamin?
If Calvin Ridley is there, you got to take Ridley. I think he
but
not
hey,
only can he stretch the field.
Did you hear what I said? Like, I said, you mean like Kelvin Benjamin?
Oh man, no, not that tight end that runs in the 4.8.
They had him. They had the guy. They let him go. That's still the most boneheaded thing I've ever seen the Panthers do. I'm sorry, I had to get that.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense. I wasn't high on that. It didn't make any sense. Yeah, I agree with you, man.
No, but Calvin Ridley, you think Calvin Ridley lasts that long? I don't.
I kind of do. I mean, from all the things I'm hearing, it sounds like Ridley might be set to take a fall. I think people are going to gamble. I think these teams are going to gamble on the upside of DJ Moore, Cortland Sutton, and like I said earlier, it's a deep receiver class. I kind of feel like Ridley's in for a little bit of a tumble in this draft season. I think he's going to last to 24. And, you know, Carolina might have their shot at him.
Why do you think he's in for a tumble, considering that he's been so, heralded as a talent in Alabama?
Well, this day and age, with all the analytics stuff, and you know, people are measuring his jumps at the combine. He did blow that away, okay? Which I don't mind. I don't care about that. That's not who he is to me. But then I think you have to look at, he probably isn't going to be a true number one, you know, split end X receiver, just because he is he's 190 pounds. He's almost 6'1". He's 190 pounds. His skill set isn't the kind that's going to go, you know, fight for 50 snaps a game and battle. He's not Des Bryant. He's not going to wear out DBs with physicality and be able to go toe-to-toe all game. This is a guy that probably needs to be moved around the formation a little bit. You want to get him some free releases. He's not going to be the guy that you want going over the middle taking beatings. There's a certain way to use Calvin Ridley, and I think the fact that he's a little older, he's going to be 24, he's on the light side, he's not a 50-50 red zone type of guy. There's just certain limitations that I think he has that might lead to him sliding, whereas guys like DJ Moore, who's bigger, ran a little faster, not that he plays faster on film, and then Sutton, who's just a monster. Those guys feel like the ones who teams are going to look at the upside and take, and then Ridley's going to fall a little bit.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Cortland Sutton is 6'4", 218 pounds. Ridley is what, 5'11", 5'10", somewhere in there? Short.
No, I think Ridley came in a little over 6 feet. He's like 6 3/8 or something like that.
Okay. He grew.
But he's still 190 pounds. You know what I mean? He's a thin dude.
But when I think of Calvin Ridley, I think of a guy who I want to get the ball to on an end around. You know, I think that he's that kind of speedster. Hey, I know you got to go. I don't want to hold you too long. I think we're past our 5-minute limit anyway. And I want to thank you very much for joining me. You've been on for an hour. It's pretty good.
Man. It's been awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I'll Rick Saratella's going to join us tomorrow, by the way, folks. We're going to be on 7 o'clock Eastern, which is 4 o'clock Pacific. Again, talking just like we are with Mr. Gamble, NFL Draft. So this is NFL Draft Talk featuring NFL Draft Bible. That's what is listed right here. So
that's who I work for.
You got it. Hey, man, thanks a lot for your time. Much appreciated.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Pleasure's all mine. Get ready for the Godfather, Rick Sabatella, tomorrow. The man holds nothing back, so be ready.
Oh, he does not, and he's I know he's loaded for bear because he's got a kid now, so he's really feeling his oats. I hope he heard that.
He will.
Hey, thanks a lot, man.
All right, Zennie. Thanks for having me, buddy.
You got it. Thank you. Appreciate it, man. You got it. See ya. All right.
All right. Take care.
Thank you. See ya. All right, folks, we're still around, and for those of you programming, note the Golden State Warriors are in a battle against the San Antonio Spurs. It's 20-all in the first quarter. The Warriors are not running away with this thing. Could the Warriors fool around and let the Spurs back into this thing? You know? I mean, do you think that'll happen? Wow. Hope not. Okay, so Jay Boogie, I got your comments there, I believe. Yeah. Hold on a second. Whoops. I did. Okay. I got most of your guys' comments here. What'd you think of the show? For those of you who are around, and I think you're probably watching the Warriors game right now. Fine. But I'm going to continue talking about the draft because this is draft week, and it's special. You know, it's just special. And this is a special time at Zennie62. I'm going to show you one of my first NFL draft. That's right, first NFL draft videos. NFL draft 2006. It's how a draftee's name gets called. And so it is a classic video on Zennie62. It is a classic video in NFL history because it's the first video. It's the first video ever made that captures exactly. I'm putting this on a full screen. Okay, it's the first video that captures exactly how this sort of thing works. Now, I want you to keep in mind something about what you're going to see. The video quality then was poor. Once you upload the video on YouTube, and I don't have the raw copy, I don't think, to re-upload, but it still stands the test of time. So here we go. All right. NFL Draft 2006, how a draftee's name gets called. This still works today. Let me unmute this.
San Francisco is chosen. Denver is on the clock. Melvin Oliver, defensive end, LSU. Melvin Oliver. Melvin Oliver. With pick number 197, the 49ers select Melvin Oliver, defensive end, LSU.
So that's it, folks. That's how a draftee's name gets called. There's the guy, they go to the team desk, and this still works today, although it's a different layout. But they go to the team desk, and they wait for the name to be written down, and they pick it up, hold it up, and they give it over there like that. Now, you would say in this day and age, why isn't it just electronically sent in? And, you know, that's a good question. I'll find out. I'm not at Dallas, but I will find out if there's been any technical changes along those lines, and I know exactly who I'm going to send an email to and to find out, so we can talk about that tomorrow when I have Rick Saratello on from NFL Draft Bible as well to talk about the NFL Draft, okay? So, yeah, definitely that was a classic video that the NFL tried to block, you know? Yeah, I'm serious. They said, well, you know, it's kind of our material. And I said, how could it be your material? It's my video. Well, you know, you made it at the draft. And, well, and then what they did, I had it embargoed for a bit, put in private. And I turned around and I saw that on the NFL's then new video website, they had their own video called How a Draftee's Name Gets Called. Same as mine. I raised hell. I really did. And I found a sympathetic ear in Jeff Pash of head at NFL Legal, and they took down that embargo they had on me and left me alone because I made classic path-breaking material. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, right? It's still wrong to do that. It just is. It's just wrong. All right. All right. We've got, see, 11:20. I'm going to stop at 11:30, mainly because it's Warrior playoff night, and I want to see how this game outcome takes place. Also, Lee Steinberg was supposed to be on today, but we had a schedule change, so Lee is going to come on 1 o'clock on Pacific, which is 4 o'clock out here, okay? So Lee Steinberg, 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock. And I'll put out the announcement tomorrow. I want to make sure officially this happens, but it's 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock for the great sports agent, Lee Steinberg, longtime friend of mine. So you got to come back and check him out, okay? 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. All right. Now, what else is going on here with the draft before I continue? Just a resuscitation of the order. Round 1, pick round 1 is Cleveland. Round 1, pick 2 belongs to the New York Giants. Round 1, pick 3, the New York Jets from Indianapolis. Round 1, pick 4, the Cleveland Browns are back. They got that one from the Houston Texans. Round 1, pick 5, that's Denver, the Denver Broncos. Round 1, pick 6, Indianapolis Colts from the New York Jets. Round 1, pick 7, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Round 1, pick 8, the Chicago Bears. Round 1, pick 9, the San Francisco 49ers, which won a coin flip against the Oakland Raiders, making the Raiders round 1, pick 10. Then we have the Miami Dolphins, round 1, pick 11. Then we have the Buffalo Bills with the 12th pick. Then we have Washington Redskins with the 13th pick. Didn't get a chance to talk Redskins. Green Bay Packers, 14th pick. Arizona Cardinals have the 15th pick. The Baltimore Ravens have 16. The Los Angeles Chargers, 17. The Seattle Seahawks are 18. The Dallas Cowboys are 19. The Detroit Lions are 20. The Cincinnati Bengals are 21 with a pick that they got from the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo picks a 22 with a pick that they got from Kansas City. 23rd pick is New England from the Los Angeles Rams. We have the Carolina Panthers at 24, as we talked about. Tennessee. The Tennessee Titans are at 25. The Atlanta Falcons are at 26. I don't think the Falcons are going to stand pat at 26. That's just a prediction. The New Orleans Saints at 27. The Pittsburgh Steelers at 28. The Jacksonville Jaguars at 29. The Minnesota Vikings are at 30. The Patriots, of course, at 31. And your Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles round out the pack at 32. I'll tell you, between the Falcons, the Saints, and the Steelers, I do not see those teams standing pat at those positions. I see them maneuvering to move up to get, in the case of the Falcons, I really believe they're going to try to get Vita Vea. I don't see the Falcons just sitting there waiting for Vita Vea to fall into their lap. I think Vita Vea is a caliber of defensive tackle from Washington that the Falcons believe they should go up and get. The Falcons, it's either that or the Falcons go up and get a quarterback, maybe. But they say that they are all in for signing Matt Ryan, but they haven't done it yet. Hey, welcome to Zennie62, by the way. We're talking NFL draft. But my point is, they haven't made that real move to sign him, all right? And hey, he's got twins. He's got to pay for, he's got them bills to pay now, all right? So there you go. All right, folks, it is now 11:24. And yeah, it's 11:24, and I'm going to go and get ready for tomorrow. And what should be a lively, no, will be a lively show at a full day. We've got Lee Steinberg, we've got Rick Saratella, and then we've got our draft special, our mock draft at 10:30. Our mock drafts featuring Patrick M. Blackman just agreed to join us, so we've got, what, 6 people, 7 people now? That's pretty good. Hey, welcome to Zennie62, by the way. How you doing? Hope everything is well, going well with you. It is 11:26 right now, and yeah. So unless you have a burning question, I don't see anyone else that has a burning question right now, I am going to pick this thing up tomorrow. Spread the word about Zennie62 covering the NFL draft. Well, talking about it. We're not there this time for the first time in 14 years, but there are a lot of classic videos, and you're going to see them between now and the draft on social media, on Twitter. Follow me at ZENNIE62. That's right. Follow me at Zennie62 on Twitter. Zennie62.com is our main blog. Zennie62 on Pinterest. Zennie62 everywhere. Follow us. All right, folks. See ya. All right. Have a great one. Thanks a lot. Okay, see ya.